It is 7:07 a.m. As we move along this morning, we are now broadcasting from the colorful Culligan Water Studios. Better water, pure and simple. 7:08 a.m. and welcome, Councilman Jeff Griffith. Glad to have you on board this morning.
Thank you, Dave.
Bright,
Matt,
shiny
thanks
face.
for having me.
You just fit right in with this group, you know?
Hey, it's a great Friday the 13th, right?
Yes,
Yep.
it is, man. Yes, it is.
I told Dave I was going to go home and get in the fetal position and take a nap, but he didn't. He wasn't okay with that.
I was saying, I know some people who probably will do that today. I know some folks that would be very concerned about being Friday the 13th.
Well, I'm not scared of Friday the 13th, but it sure sounded like a good excuse to take a nap.
Well, there you go. Well, we've got a lot of things to talk about. Of course, a big council meeting last night, Councilman. But first and foremost, Texas Tech University is on everyone's mind, of course, and that's what's going on with such a tragedy out there. So, does the council have any comments about that?
Last night, Mayor Pope read a special resolution, and our hearts and souls are with, and we had moments of silence for this slain officer and the whole Texas Tech family. It is a horrible tragedy, and y'all talked about it. I mean, we haven't seen anything like this in Lubbock in a long time. And Dave, you and I have been around here a long time.
Yeah, I don't think we've ever. I'm not aware of anything like that.
So it's on everybody's mind. We respectfully had a special resolution that Mayor Pope read, and he's been in contact with Tech administration. Of course, our Chief Stevens, Lubbock Police Chief, is highly involved in the homicide investigation, and had a press conference about it yesterday. So they will continue to do the work on this.
Yeah. Well, it is an awful situation. And one of the things, Matt, I don't know if you have that, but there's a way that you can donate directly through Texas Tech.
Yeah, it's on my Twitter. Let me see. I can retweet that.
It's a very, very clean, very
it's
easy,
just right on
easy
the
way
Texas,
to do it.
It's just right on the Texas Tech website.
He left a wife and two daughters. I believe two children.
I believe that's correct.
And so there's a fund that is being set up, which will certainly be needed to educate those kids and to take care of that family during this time. There's a lot of expenses that are going to be associated with all of this. So, of course, you'd mentioned you guys did the resolution last night, but there's also some other exciting things that you guys talked about. I know Lubbock Alert is one.
LBK Alert is the name of it. This is a new emergency notification system that we adopted last night. Fire Chief Lance Phelps presented an outstanding presentation to us, y'all, that explains this format. It is a cell phone-based emergency system. Our city manager, Jay Partsman, the emergency operations manager, they've been working on this as a team along with Lubbock Police Department for months, and so they've been amassing data and going to this system. We feel like this is going to be a real advantage for the citizens. It really is messages that can be done through cell phone, landlines, emails, and social media. So it hits a lot of different ways, of course, to
get
information out.
Tornado,
yes,
then this is something that could be done just instantly.
Tornadoes, flooding, winter weather threats.
Active shooter situations?
Absolutely, Matt. Fire, crime scene, to your point, a gas leak. It can even be regionalized. So if you once this is, and this will be it's a big priority for the city of Lubbock to get the information out on how to get it to your phone. And it's real easy to opt in. Now, one thing you can't opt out of once you take this is the emergency alerts. The regionalized alerts you can, which would be, it's more targeted, like utility outages. You know, if there's a possibility of electrical
But like
outage.
if there was a tornado, that would be what would you call that? An urgent alert?
It is an urgent alert, and it's
and
even
you
colorized. It can be done by texting. Excuse me. It also can be done by texting to a cell phone, or it's going to be an app-based product that you can, if you want to receive the app.
The citizen's going to have to sign up for it.
Citizens do sign up. There is no cost, but it is, and there's different levels of alert, and that the colorization will help us try to simplify it.
So as far as the utility outage, so if, let's say, the electricity goes out in an area, would those people get an alert saying that the electricity was out? And by doing that, see, one of the biggest problems is you don't know if LP&L knows that there's an outage. So you call them, and they get hundreds of calls of people. So you get an alert. You know that they know.
I mean, you're right. You're right on nail on the head there.
Okay.
So that is exactly what we're trying to do, is be more proactive in letting the citizens of Lubbock knowing what's going on, especially when it's, you know, weather-related issues, very serious. We feel like this is going to be very advantageous. The majority of folks do have cell phones, and again, this can be landline-based. It can be social media-based. So our fire department, our emergency ops director, and Lubbock Police Department, LP&L, are all involved in this.
So even landline, so that you'll get a recorded voice, I suppose, that would call and alert you.
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, are we still planning? Well, let's go ahead and take this break, and we'll come back.
Okay.
All right. Be right back. News Talk, 95.1 FM and 790 AM. We are KFYO Mornings with Dave King and Matt Martin. It's 7:21 AM, and we've got Councilman Jeff Griffith with us this morning. We were talking about LBK alerts, and of course, that's a great idea. And if all of you are familiar with the Amber Alert situation, where you get an alert on your cell phone, it's something akin to that. And this will be great. If you live out here in Lubbock, you will want to know, particularly in the springtime, when we have these severe storms that pop up, because they're so frequently maybe have a tornado in them. And this would be an excellent way for you to know that some bad weather is coming and you need to take cover. That's the main thing. But one of the things I wanted to ask you, Jeff, is there's been some talk, and I know at least there's some of the media, or at least one of the media, are pushing these tornado sirens. I think that's a really dumb idea in the 21st century. Is there still any serious talk about doing that? Because it would cost a lot of money, and
the last numbers we got were $3 to $4 million.
Oh,
now the main thing is, and there has been a lot of discussion about it. Our new city manager, Jared Atkinson, I say he's new. He doesn't want us to call him new anymore because he's been here for almost a year. But Jarrett feels like that this is a very good alternative.
I agree,
and that this is the technology of today.
And it's probably costs a fraction of that, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. But I don't know that it's about the money so much as we feel like the responsiveness of this can be more accurate.
You'll get more people.
Yeah, Matt, good point. There is a 311 sign up. There's a text sign up. And we understand it's going to take the city a while to get citizens to, and y'all, we'll probably wear y'all out with this over the next year as we implement it. The neat thing is that it really can do a lot of good, and we think that get communication level to a much higher level, I should say. But the other thing it can do, and it's not, I mean, we're gonna have, like I say, we're gonna have quite a public launch in November. The police, the fire, and city departments will all be able to.
Are you talking about next month?
Yes, this November. But there'll also be other city departments. This is optional. You don't have to opt in for this. There's other departments like Parks and Rec, museums, that can be had on this app. So there's some other components of it, of communication from the city, but it's the main thing that I stress is weather, or to what you brought up, Matt, about utility outages, health issues. If we had a hazmat situation, but it also can be, like we talked about, it can be localized to a certain part of the city. And that way the rest of the city is not affected. If you live on the northwest side, and this happens in southeast Lubbock, if there's a bad wreck or water main break, it doesn't. You're not bothered with it. So, and some of this you can opt out of, but the weather alerts you cannot.
No. Well, I think that's a great idea, and this is something that I had thought about, of course, some time ago. That something like this on your cell phone would probably cover more people than a siren ringing.
This is in conjunction with Everbridge, and Everbridge is the format we're using, and it's been highly used by a lot of cities all over the United States. So it's a very proven system.
Yes. So, was there anything else about this?
This was first introduced to us last night, so that's about as much as I know, guys.
Do y'all have to go through votes and whatnot still?
We've already voted to implement this as of last night.
So
it was in. And by the way,
it went quick.
Matt, it was in our budget already. In our budget for this upcoming year to answer that.
Hey, we do have a text for you this morning, Councilman. It says, for the councilman, why have we allowed deferred maintenance to become part of our regular routine? That's inexcusable. And to the texter from the 283, we'd like you to be more specific and maybe talk about exactly what deferred maintenance you're talking about. Now, I know that the city has taken a lot of complaints, a lot of heat in the past about not keeping up our buildings. None of the councils want to spend money on repairing what is already there. That's really, it's just not sexy. New brick and mortar, that's the kind of things that they like to do, which is understandable. So I'm assume maybe that's what he's talking about.
If he's talking about facilities, different buildings, I mean, we talk about Coliseum Auditorium for a long time, actually, but because we have deferred maintenance there that we've pulled money away and put it in the Civic Center.
Are we going to tear that down?
We are not tearing it down. Somebody else might, but the city of
we're going to
Lubbock is
vacate
not
it?
There's a good chance that could happen.
I remember that this is a unique cooperation between Tech and the city, is it not? The Tech owns the land and the city built
Actually, the city owns the land and the west parking lot between Jones Stadium and the Coliseum Auditorium.
Oh, well, are you charging rent to park there?
The city does make... does have a lease agreement, has had for many years with Texas Tech University for student parking on that west lot. Back to the deferred maintenance, and maybe we'll get an answer from the texter. They could be speaking of street maintenance also, because we elected to spend $7 million on street maintenance in our new budget. That's all cash funded. We did not want to debt fund any street maintenance this year. That was the council's vote, if you will. We've had folks that feel like we need to spend more than that.
Okay, we got to take a break here, Councilman, but we'll be right back. But a texter this morning says, will it have iPause integration? I assume we're talking about.
That's exactly right.
Well, I don't know what iPause is. But
this LBK Alert does have iPause integration.
All right, there you go. There's
Great
your
question.
answer. We'll be right back with more after this. News Talk, 95.1 FM and 790 AM. We are KFYO Mornings with Dave King and Matt Martin. It is 7:36, and we got our final segment. Oh, well, let's mention that we're broadcasting live from the Culligan Water Studios, better water, pure and simple. We have this is our last segment with Councilman Jeff Griffith, who's talking about, of course, the meeting that they had last night. We were talking about the auditorium, Coliseum, and what do you foresee as the future of the auditorium and Coliseum?
Dave, we need to let the listeners know that we lose about $700,000 a year.
That's staggering.
And that's after the leasing of it. Today, it is leased to, there's only about 10 events scheduled, the rodeo being a very important one that we have annually. But it is leased to Texas Tech for for basketball, for athletics, for basketball usage, I believe. But the main thing is that we speaking of deferred maintenance, and that's what brought this up, is many years ago, previous councils took money away from the Auditorium Coliseum maintenance and put it into the Civic Center, which I totally agree with, understanding now, y'all, because we needed the money in the Civic Center update. The Coliseum Auditorium, to really get to your question, is we don't feel like we should spend any more money on it because Buddy Holly Hall is being constructed,
Mm-hmm.
and so the auditorium usefulness is honestly going away.
Well, and when it's completed, it's going to those 10 events, many of them will go away, I'm sure.
Yes.
That you're now.
Yes.
So it's a white elephant.
Well, it is, and it's a lot of people, it's tender because they might have seen Elvis there. Or,
yeah.
Great basketball. As a kid, great. I remember in the '60s going with my dad when you could still smoke in there, and there was always a cloud of smoke in the top of it. You remember that? Yeah.
Yeah. Nobody thought anything about it.
Nobody thought anything about it, but it is a dated building. Tech's going to have a basketball game. I think both men's and women's teams play Rice in mid-December, I believe. It's kind of a throwback Southwest Conference game, which is kind of neat. From a city standpoint, I think I can speak for a whole council, we're not going to put any more money into it. We'll see. We're still in discussion.
Texas Tech would probably love to have that land.
They might. That's probably what we need to think about. It's on their campus.
We talked about this years ago, and they have a huge interest in it. Of course,
it is on city land, but it's on their campus.
Right.
So I think that's the first discussion, of course.
Yeah, and then we've also got ERCOT, which is a major issue right now.
Oh, wow. Thank you for bringing it up. We're excited. Everybody might have got in their LP&L. If they're an LP&L customer, they might have got a notification of our filing with the Public Utility Commission of Texas to join the ERCOT grid in the rest of the state. And so we're very excited about this. Has been an ongoing project for years, actually since my 3+ years on council, is the future power generation for our city, and it gives us many more options as far as acquiring power. So
as far as ERCOT's concerned, now I'm trying to remember how all this worked, but the LP&L's been raising the cost of power recently by like 5% per year, whatever it was, right?
The base rate has gone up 5.25% for 3 years. This was the last year, futuristically, and it's at 5 even on the base rate.
Okay, so as far as ERCOT, from with those increases already there, are there going to be any more increases once they jump onto ERCOT?
I don't think there will be. I think that there's huge savings that can be made. It may take us several years to get to those savings. I'm not going to sit here and promise folks that their electric rates are going to go down. We will. The attachment process to this is substantial. So this is something that our electric utility board and LP&L administration is studying and has been for a long time. But we see this as long-term real savings to the citizens of Lubbock. And, you know, LP&L is, by term, is an electric utility company, but it's owned by the city of Lubbock. So it's a city department, if you will, no different than your water department. The difference is we buy power today from the north, if you will, the SPP grid, and we only have one supplier. In going to ERCOT, we can have over 800 suppliers. So you can imagine the options in the marketplace going forward, especially as we've seen with, you know, two weeks ago, did you see just east of La Mesa, huge solar plant going to go into construction there?
Really?
There's all kinds of power options. I'm not saying that's the end result. I'm just saying let's get into the marketplace where we have more options.
Yeah.
So, as far as the upfront costs with ERCOT, has all that already been covered? I mean, because we haven't actually gotten into ERCOT yet, but I know there's going to be a lot of upfront costs to get all the lines and everything set up.
There is and that's under discovery with the state from the utility standpoint with ERCOT, as far as how those costs are distributed. But we don't have to provide power the way we've had to provide power to the north in the SPP marketplace. So there's some real savings, about possibly $20 million a year.
Well, okay, we're about out of time, but Councilman, we really do appreciate you coming out and taking time with us. It's been very, very interesting and very informative.
Well, thank y'all. Appreciate you having me, and happy Friday the 13th. It's gonna be a good weekend.
Ditto. We'll be back.
And before we go, I did want to ask on Citizens Tower, is everything still going to plan with that? I noticed that there was something on the list about that, so I was just going to see what y'all...
Thanks for bringing that up. Yesterday, went over and with Councilman Steve Massingale and Mayor Pro Tem Latrell Joy, and we looked at the building somewhat, didn't go in, but we looked, and there's quite a bit of activity there. It's amazing what's going on. We still have a few months of demo. You'll see some large crane activity there. Citizens Tower is well on its way.
They're taking the concrete off the sides.
Yes, and
I did notice that.
That'll on that east side where there was a fire escape stairwell that was occupied by pigeons. That's all gone, and that'll change dramatically in the next year. We're on about a 20-month process, we think, to completion. This is very exciting, and I think that it'll be not just a very efficient way to do a city center, and LP&L will be housed in there, I might add, as will other city departments that are now leased in other places in our city. So we'll have a city center, and it will be in my opinion, a great thing for downtown Lubbock and our downtown revitalization. This will be a benchmark for decades.
At the rate that Lubbock is growing, is there going to be room for growth as the city, as LP&L expands? And
good question, Dave. In the space planning for Citizens Tower, in the space planning, we analyzed that up to 2035. So yes, that's the reason we did this, because it's got 187,000 square feet, and we wanted to have a city center that was big enough for our growth.
Yeah. Okay. Well, and now we mean it. Thank you for coming.
No. Thanks. Hey, thank y'all.
We got to take a break.
Appreciate it.
All right, bud.